Today I show you how to install Node-RED stress-free in the most efficient way in less than 5 minutes. I also show you how to configure authentication, Node-RED projects and version control so you can get the most out of your Node-RED projects. Sounds easy? It is easy. A quick note. This is the first of a series of videos. If you have any suggestions, questions or ideas about Node-RED, please leave me a comment. Give me a thumbs up if you like what you see here and don't forget to subscribe to the channel. As always, you can find more information below the video. I'm Christian C, glad you're here, and now let's get started. What is the first thing that we want to do with Node-RED? Install. That's what this video is about, but there are many ways to do that. So you want to know how to do it most efficiently and without any nasty surprises? You will be surprised how easy it actually is. On nodred.org you can find an article called Running Node-RED Locally. Let's take a closer look at it. As you can see, there are a number of ways to install Node-RED here. In our example, I'm installing under Linux, Ubuntu, and for the installation under Windows, there's also instructions here. However, the effort is much higher. Below the video, I therefore link you to a project called Node-RED Desktop, which can be used as a native Windows application at the push of a button. This is not from the makers of Node-RED, but if you follow Nick O'Leary and the future plans of Node-RED, it is clear that such approaches are planned for the future. Anyway, as a Windows user, you save yourself a lot of time and nerves this way. General statement. All the ways described lead to success. The only question is, how complex is it and how long does it take? I'm working here in a freshly set up Linux container, so it makes sense to update the system first. You should do that in any case, and it usually goes very quickly. Next you have to install curl or curl. This is easily done with apt-get install curl. The reason for this is that the installation script, which we will use later, requires curl. You may have already installed it, in which case this step is not necessary, of course. The installation script also needs two packages, namely build essential and git, so that npm is able to install the binary modules it needs to install. The command for this is apt install build essential and git. So the installation itself can take a little longer and of course depends on the performance of your system. Now simply copy the highlighted command. You've already fulfilled all requirements for the installation of Node-RED or for the installation script of Node-RED. Therefore, we can now start. The installation via script can take longer, but that has its reasons. Let's talk about what exactly is happening here. So first of all, yes, I want to install this root. And yes, I'm really sure. And no, I'm not going to install the Pi-specific nodes. This is not Raspberry Pi. It's a Linux container. So what exactly does the script do? It will remove the pre-packaged version of Node-RED and Node.js if they are present. It will install the current Node.js LTS release. It will install the latest version of Node-RED using npm. It will take a while. And finally, optionally, it will install the collection of useful Pi-specific nodes, which we're not using, so this is it. To enable user authentication on the editor and admin API, you need to install another tool called Node-RED Admin. If you are using Node-RED version 1.1.0 or later, you can skip this step. We're now using the Node-RED Admin tool. The command is Node-RED Admin #password or PW. You can use your own fancy password. so that the passwords are securely hashed using the bcrypt algorithm. And finally, simply copy this. Now, start Node-RED manually and not as a service. We do this so that, among other things, the settings.js file is created, which we will edit in a moment, and then simply stop it again. Now change into your user directory and there into the hidden Node-RED directory, and there we edit the settings.js file. Now we do this in order to enable user authentication on the editor and admin API. So what we're going to do is uncomment the admin authentication property in your settings file. So simply scroll down a little bit or search for admin authentication and then uncomment. At this point, we still need to replace the password hash that you copied in the previous step. So just delete it and replace it. And then scroll down to the end of the file. There we have to activate the project feature. To do this, we simply replace false with true. That's it. Now save and exit. You probably want Node-RED to start automatically at every boot, and I'll explain how this works now. Actually, there is not much to explain because we use the standard Linux command system control enable Node-RED service. It will automatically create the symlink. Done. Now this time we start Node-RED as a service with the command system control start Node-RED. And you can of course also check the status. So you can see here that Node-RED has started successfully. Now point your browser to your Node-RED IP address followed by port 1880, add your username and password and click on login. Now it's basically two options. We can create a project or clone a repository. We're going to create a project right now. So we now add our username and our email for our version control client, and then we click on next. Add a project name and simply a description, like in this case just a demo. Next. And this is where this is all about your project files. It's the flow.json. I highly recommend to use the encryption, so enable the encryption. Add your custom key here and then click on create project. And this is basically it. You've successfully created your first project. Now click on done. Now let's talk about version control. Click on the burger icon, projects and project settings, and again click on settings. Now we want to add a remote. So click on add remote and give it a name. In my case, I'm using Git instead of GitLab or GitHub. You can use whatever you want and copy and paste your URL. In my case, I have to replace the localhost with the real IP address of my Git instance and then click on add remote. We can close this window. What we want to do next is just add a simple flow. I use the inject node and the debug node, so we're injecting the timestamp. Now click on deploy. And let's test it. It's not a big surprise we get the timestamp, right? So, little change, moved the debug node a little bit to the right, and I added a comment node, which we name example. We're going to deploy it again. And now let's have a look at the version control. You can see there's some changes within the flow.json. So we want to commit the flow.json file and enter your commit message, something like comment node edit or whatever you want. Once you've done this, click on commit. Now in the commit history, we can clearly see the changes. One in the debug node because the position has changed, moved a little bit to the right. And we also added another node, the comment node, and named it example. So we also want to have a look at the manage remote branch. So we're going to push it. It basically says that our repository is one commit ahead of the remote, which is true. And we're going to push it again. And then we're going to switch to git t. And let's see if everything is there. Comment node edit, that's true. Let's have a look at it. This is the comment node. This is how we named it, example. So that's basically it, no rocket science. This is the version control. And that brings us to the end. Of course, topics like remote branch, GitHub integration are completely optional, and yes, the video is longer than 5 minutes, but if you subtract my explanations, some of which are a bit long-winded, you too can install Node-RED in about 5 minutes. If I didn't go into some things in this video that you would have liked to have seen, then tell me in the comments. If there are any topics around Node-RED you always wanted to see in a video, then tell me, and it doesn't matter how complex your topic is. I will do my very best to make it happen and try to include it in my next videos. I also want to do a series on Tasmota and Linux containers soon. Of course, all this in combination with Node-RED. Give me feedback if and what you're interested in. If you're interested in supporting me and my channel, please visit my Patreon link in the description. If you liked the video, click the thumbs up button and consider subscribing to my channel. And in any case, glad you were here. I'm Christian C. Thank you and see you soon.